everyone, today I'm going to do a voiceover for you simply because it actually was an interesting process. So what happened before I filmed this process was I sat down to paint florals. I had a really strong craving just to do loose florals. I love watching other creators on YouTube create them, and it seems so kind of easy and natural when they do it. And so I just thought, why don't I paint something that I enjoy watching or enjoy other people creating? So that went really downhill and quite fast, and the reason for that is I didn't have any specific color palette in mind. So usually with the process that I start with, I always start with picking out a few colors and then thinking about how they work together. So pre-planning a little bit goes into, into a finished piece. It always makes me feel more kind of comfortable, and then I find once I have done that step, the rest of it kind of falls into place. And I've done this so many times and it works every single time for me. So in the original piece, I just thought, okay, loose flowers, and I want them to be bright. So then I started with pinks, yellows, and it quickly moved on to some darker colors, and it just started to become a mess because there was no clear vision for me where I'm going with this. And for me personally, I work best when I pre-plan things and when I am in control of what I'm doing. And I felt like it was right the opposite with that first piece that I was doing, and of course it ended up horrendous in my opinion. It just didn't feel like myself. It wasn't bad as as a piece, just to look at it, but what I did find was not great is I didn't feel myself in there. I didn't see my style, and that's where I'm comfortable lately, is the color palette that I associate myself with, and it's a certain style that I have been developing. So yeah, and I felt so frustrated, and it just kind of made me feel not really good about my creative side because I had very little time. And so I thought, if I sit down and do it, why is it that I'm not enjoying it? I should be enjoying it. So I could have walked away, but I knew for the rest of the day it would be nagging at the back of my mind that I spent all this time. It was about 40 minutes. It was really long because I tried to go back and rescue it. And the more I tried to do it, the further away I was from any type of rescuing. It just became more and more complicated, overworked, and just did not look great. And it kind of was going more and more downhill as I was trying to add things or rescue things. So then I decided, okay, I'm going just to sit down, and straight away, without walking away, I'm going to spend a little bit of time and do what feels natural to me. So I knew I wanted to do botanicals. Let's say I thought, okay, maybe flowers are not the thing today. Maybe I'll just do leaves. Maybe that's what will work better, because when I draw leaves or leafy botanicals, I tend to have more of a structure, as you can see here already on the screen. It's quite structured, and you just repeat the same pattern in a way, and that takes off the stress, because when you draw flowers, they do need a bit more imagination, I find, because you would probably want to change the angle of them and the petals and things like that. So on the days when it's not coming naturally, I feel like doing something more kind of simplified or structured rather helps me better. So this is where I went, and before all of that, of course, a color palette. So I thought I wanted to like pastel pinks with a little bit of peach in there, and then use that new color that I have bought. I'm trying to think. It's the Alizarin Violet Lake, the Sennelier Oil Stick. It's one of the latest colors that I bought at the time when I was doing the video. But since actually last night, I went ahead and I bought a few more that are back in stock now on Jackson's. They were out of stock for a while and I wanted to get those colors. So I feel like now I have all the colors I want. So I'm quite excited. A few more colors are still coming and I'll share those when they arrive. So yeah, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to incorporate that color, and I made sure that whatever other color I would use in this piece would work nicely together. And if I just kept everything kind of peach and pink, I felt like there wasn't enough contrast. So as my popping color, I went for that olive green, which is more of a kind of forest green, I suppose, but it's called olive green, and it's one of those Pentel, there you go, Pentel brush, ink brush pens, whatever they're called. And they're quite fun because they can be used as watercolors. I haven't mentioned the first kind of background wash, what I did there. I just mixed a bit of watercolor in with some white gouache, and that was from Royal Talens. And it's just a basic white tab, and it's been serving me quite well. And you can create a more opaque color quite quickly, and it looks really beautiful as a background. One thing you have to keep in mind as well is the order of the art supplies. So whatever I pick there, I had to think of what I want to use in which order, because for instance, those oil sticks, they remain wet for at least a day or two. So the Sennelier need about 2 days to dry fully. And so that means I wouldn't be able to go over them with a gel pen, for instance, because that would clog the nib. And couldn't do the Uni Posca pens and things like that. So I just had to be a little bit more wary of those things, and that's where a little bit of planning helps. That's about it though. I didn't think of anything else. I didn't think of a composition. Then that part becomes spontaneous and it becomes more creative and in a way intuitive, I guess. And even here, for instance, I decided to thicken the line in between the lines because it happened accidentally in one of the leaves, and I actually quite liked it. So then I decided to go with it and repeat it, and that created a nice little kind of effect and statement in a way. So yeah, that's basically it. The colors, the order of using things help a lot, a little bit of pre-planning. And as I went with this piece, I thought, okay, now I can work to add a little bit here or there, and I took my time, but in the end it actually was a 20-minute piece, so I spent half the time. It felt more natural and it felt more like me. I enjoyed what I was doing. Originally I was going to use just watercolor and that Alizarin Violet Lake Sennelier oil stick to incorporate in that floral piece that I did to start with. And I thought, okay, I don't want to use too many mixed media items, and that wasn't me, because naturally I would go for it. But sometimes we listen to other opinions and they kind of can misguide us. Maybe if we think maybe we should use more watercolor, maybe using too much mixed media is kind of taking away from advancing or getting better with watercolor. Maybe if I used more watercolor, maybe I would be further with it, or maybe I would discover new techniques or something like that. But in reality it will happen naturally, I find. And if you stop listening to your gut, in a way, to your creative gut, and start following opinions or things that you think you should be doing, I think this is when the problems start happening for me. I just need to completely concentrate on what I feel feels good to me. And there will be a few corrections here where I'm stepping back and thinking, okay, something maybe needs to be changed, or something maybe needs to be done slightly different. And then here I decided that left side was becoming a little bit busy, so I wanted to knock it down. And what could be a better medium than acrylic paint? Again, I love using acrylic paint, and to me lately those three mediums, so the watercolors and the Sennelier Oil Sticks and acrylics together, kind of makes such a cozy composition. So here mixing up similar color to what I have already laid as a background, the watercolor / gouache wash, and I'm making it a little bit more beige because obviously I wanted to not blend in completely. I wanted to stand out just ever so slightly. I'm actually looking at the finished piece now. And so then I decided to go ahead and first create this kind of like a circular motion, and then as I was about to start on the left side, I thought I'll create a triangular shape, which always helps to bring the composition together. As we have the botanical in the middle, it kind of, works well. So first I used the brush, and then it just didn't feel good to me. I love using fingers with acrylic paints lately. It's just become a thing for me, and I think there is absolutely nothing I would want to use with acrylics other than my fingers, because it just becomes such a different experience. It's such an organic and tactile feeling. I never used to be into finger painting, and as you may already know, I don't like getting my fingers dirty, but that is when, I don't know, when I'm doing something and it kind of unintentionally gets dirty. But when I'm using my finger to create and to smudge and to blend, that's for me becomes pleasure, and I can then achieve something that I wouldn't be able to achieve with a brush or sponge or anything like that. So with acrylics, I find there's nothing better than my fingertips. So you can see now I'm building a little bit of a firstly, it creates a texture. To me, it looks a lot more interesting than painted circle with a brush. So these are still kind of oval, spherical, shapes, but they are more interesting to me. So then I decided to also add a bit of gold to it, and that again creates that sort of like 3 clusters of interesting colors, and I'm trying to not repeat them exactly, but change around where I'm placing things, and the dots or the doodles, change those a little bit around, so it becomes a bit of a concoction of things. And then finally, as I stepped back and I was quite happy with what's going on there, I decided that the last touch I wanted to add a bit of white Uni Posca doodles right in the middle of the leaves, and to me that made it pop and come a little bit more to foreground, and that was my happy place. So the lesson that I learned here is that we all need a bit of ugly art, and that tends to kind of, it's the experimental time that we need, and sometimes it happens more often than you perhaps wanted, but it's the learning time that will get you to the next level, and it really is quite important. So don't dismiss or don't get frustrated over those sessions of art. They are equally important. So thank you for watching, and see you soon.